man. Where you at? Yo, Fizz! Where you at, man? We got things to do. Fizz!
What?
I've been looking all over for you. What are you doing pedaling around, man? We're on the trail of something big here. We gotta go.
Man, I'm out on the trail of something here. There's a scatter running all the way into the beach.
Man, quit screwing around. We got a wreck to go look at. We got the word. We gotta go.
What is that?
That's a big hunk of pottery off of a big olive jar. This is a pottery scatter through where I got those cannonballs last time. I've got a chart from about 1860, the Dutch wreck Indrak.
Right.
Well, I'm telling you, part of the scatter's through here.
Well, we need to get going, bro.
Take a bite.
All right, let's get out of here.
Get it, dude! Shortly after Columbus's voyage of discovery, the Spanish started sending treasure fleets back to Spain. And they did that for more than 300 years. 300 years of treasure fleets going right past our little island here. And if the pirates didn't get them, sometimes the hurricanes did. Nothing like the sound of silver. This is what it's all about.
There's one thing for sure, if you don't go out and look, you'll never find it. Captain's rules.
The location of all sunken treasure is secret.
Navigational coordinates will not be shared.
Any clues regarding these locations are probably false. I'm going to tell you how to find treasure, and I guarantee you'll find it if you don't quit. It took me 6 years before I found my first Spanish coin, but once I got the hang of it, then I started doing pretty good. I've worked all the 1733 fleet, 1715 fleet, 1622 fleet. Those are the 3 famous fleets around Florida. I've recovered, I'd say, about $5 million worth of gold, silver, and artifacts. I've always got more than just one wreck to chase. Normally we'll have 5 or 6. The thing that's on the front burner right now is what I believe to be about a mid-1800s slave ship. Should have a lot of hard money on board. It was a returning home slave ship, but I can tell you more about that later on.
A few years back, I bought a dive shop down in the Florida Keys, and my dream was to meet the world-famous treasure diver, Carl Fismer. One day, this crusty old dude walks into my shop, and the rest, as they say, is history. Today we're on the site of the 1733 fleet. Fizz has been out there many times and brought out a lot of gold and silver as well as other artifacts. But we have a permit to go and search an area that may contain a ship even older than that, from the 1500s. Hey Fizz, I got a good feeling about today, man.
I do too.
You sure it's not gas?
We need to start up towards the seaward side where the ballast is lightly scattered.
They were heading up from the south, right? And then the hurricane probably came up from the southeast.
It did. Initially came over down by Davis and skittered along pretty much intact till they got right here. And this was the final resting place. It's a light scatter of ballast. That's probably our best shot for starters. Ballast rocks are one of about 4 or 5 key clues that I look for when I first look at a wreck site. The ones we hope they are the nice, round, smooth river rocks from Spain. The Spanish used to line the bottoms of the ships with them. And another thing they did, the bulk silver, like the big silver bars, 70, 80, 90 pounds, used to be loaded right on top of the ballast rocks to give it more stability. Tons of 40, 50 tons of silver on top of the rocks. A lot of your main wreck sections, like where the ballast mounds are, have been picked and picked and picked and gone over for 50, 60 years. The secret these days is to follow the trail. Clouds up. That's a clean mask.
That's a clean mask, I tell you. Right there. Here's your little whippy thing.
I don't think I'm going to wear it. I'm just going to do my t-shirt and shorts.
Damn.
Some of us aren't weenies.
I'm cold. I'm a warm water wuss. And I admit it. Proud of it. I'll be down there and find everything before you get down there.
Yeah, learn something about that metal detector, why don't you?
I will.
What's the long hose for? I missed that part.
If something should happen, Fizz, look, if something should happen,
Yeah.
you're way over here.
Okay.
All right, that's basically the only reason for it.
You mean in case of shark attack?
Yeah, right.
I take my knife and I cut your heel and run it?
And run like hell?
Yes. Want me to spit on it?
I got it. Thank you.
Shortly after Columbus's voyage of discovery, the Spanish started sending treasure fleets back to Spain. And they did that for more than 300 years.
The staging area for a lot of Spanish galleons was Havana, and it came right past the Florida Keys.
A typical galleon would have about 500,000 pesos, and then you could figure at least that again in the smuggled stuff.
If you look at just one single wreck and the amount of treasure that would be on board, it would be in the vicinity of around $100 million in today's prices.
I sit around thinking about 300 years of treasure fleets going right past our little island here. When you hear terms like there could be as much as 500 billion on today's market unrecovered treasure, I think that's possible. All the records would show is this particular vessel left Havana, was heading for Spain, just never heard from again. It's an excellent chance there's probably a lot of gold on this ship. It's an earlier 1500s wreck, and it wasn't salvaged by the Spanish, otherwise there would have been records of it. Like in the 1700s and 1800s, you could have 500-600 people on a ship, and chances are some of them would live to tell about it. The earlier ships were smaller, not as well built, they didn't know much about sailing, and the Indians weren't friendly. Many times if you could make it into shore, they'd invite you for dinner. And that means probably no survivors to tell them about where they sank.
It's about recovering the history. Here Fizz and I are going out and we're finding things that have been lost for 200 to 300 years. It's a thrill and a half. It's just a heck of a lot of fun. For me, being able to meet and partner with Carl Fismer is a dream come true. I'm learning how to become a treasure diver myself by learning from the master.
We got another little mishmash of two different sites here. Obviously, this one drug right over top of the other one. That was bottom sheeting. You found that before.
Yeah, that's much copper then, right?
Yeah, copper. It
yeah.
discouraged the worms from eating the wood. It was a good idea because it certainly prolonged the life of the vessels. And his musket ball.
Yeah, that's a good find there.
Yeah, it's actually a pistol ball. The musket balls were bigger, but you get the idea. Flintlock, black powder shot.
That'd still put a hurting on you if it went into you, wouldn't it?
I hope to. Yes.
What year do you think that was? What would date that? Somewhere around.
I can date it exactly to the year for you, but I'm not going to at this time.
Okay. All right. That's, again, keeping our location secret here. All right. Well, not a bad day here, I tell you.
I've had a lot worse, dude. I can tell you that.
Well,
we didn't get skunked. And any one of them things could have been a coin.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
And there's been a lot of coins picked up here. I know because I picked some of them.
Pick some up. Okay. I kind of wish we had something else that was on the horizon we can go look at.
You know, there is.
What?
Well, I've got a tape I need to show you. It was given to me by a fish diver from north of here, about 285 miles.
What is it?
Well, maybe come over to my house tomorrow.
Okay. All right, sure.
Think you can find land?
Let's head that way. Follow the crab traps.
There they are.
I found a few good artifacts.
Yeah. Anytime you find something, that's a good day.
Yeah.
Can you play Melancholy Baby? Got a nice beat. You can dance. I give it a 75.
Did you? All right, thanks.
And now from 103.1 Weather Center, it's another awesome day in the Keys, but keep it right here for updates. Storm number 5, number 5 of the season out there. No worries so far. Hands up. It's way out there in the ocean, but keep your fingers crossed, folks. And in the meantime, loosen your top a little bit and crank up the tunes from the Florida Keys.
I'd like to go on record as saying that King Philip has been very, very good to me. There were 2 fleets a year, actually. One in the sailing routes called the Spanish Main. They would sail up from South America to Havana, and the second fleet would come out of Mexico. They would meet then in Havana and form one large fleet and sail back to Spain. Occasionally, they would hit a storm or be chased by pirates. They considered the Dutch, the French, and the English all pirates, as they were trying to raid the Spanish and capture the Spanish galleons. I've led an expedition in 1986 to Silver Shoals Reef in the Dominican Republic, and we worked the wreck of the Conception. We brought back about 12,000 coins. A few of them I kept for myself. This is one of them. We discovered a Spanish galleon that sank in the 1730s. Of course, we started diving on it, and we found this knife. So the whole crew got excited. Wow, an intact knife. We just don't get this all the time. So we all start diving, metal detecting, and then we bring up another knife, more knives. And by the time we had about 200 of them, we were down to, oh, it's just another knife. But still in all, it's wonderful material, and they all had hand-carved wooden handles. Poor little Mr. Horsey. Salt water is Mother Nature's way of getting rid of things that she doesn't like. That's called oxidation. So when we bring something up, we immediately put it in fresh water. I believe this is part of a silver bracelet, but it's oxidized really bad. I just remembered I've got some more artifacts in the toilet tank. Come on into the bathroom with me. I keep a lot of the smaller artifacts in the toilet tank because it changes the fresh water every time you flush. That's an intact pewter plate, sank in 1733, excellent condition, been soaking for a while. And here's a really nice pair of scissors from a Spanish galleon, used as trade items. Really nice, soaking a long time. Even though I don't have to pee right now, I'm going to flush the toilet just so the fresh water will change again. I would say the Spanish lost about 5% of their shipping, which would amount to hundreds of vessels over a 300-year period. And today, through hard work and research, we've been able to locate many of these vessels and return to public domain thousands of artifacts that have been lost for hundreds of years.
The next day, I sped over to see Fizz and check out this mystery video. Would this be my chance to go down in history with the world's most storied treasure diver?
About 15 years ago, there was a fish diver, a guy that dove for tropical fish. He accidentally ran across what we call the Boneyard site. There's hundreds, maybe thousands of prehistoric bones. So he decided to take a video camera out and get it on videotape. Problem is, it's old, and then 12 or 13 or so years later, a friend of his asked me to look at this tape because he knew I was in the treasure business and he thought I might know how to market these 10-million-year-old bones. As I'm watching it, I said, "Whoa, back up there just a second." And he backs up, "Stop right there." And I said, "Look at that." He said, "What?" And we were looking at a deadeye. This is a deadeye. It's a block of wood which the lines ran through, rigging lines used to like raise and lower the sail. "That's upper decking from a shipwreck. Didn't you see it?" He said, "No."
Holy crap, there's that cannon.
I'm glad you saw that.
Whoa, let's back that up a little bit. Look at that.
Now, it's not a big one, but it's a cannon nonetheless. I'd say, here's your shoulders right here.
Yep.
That's the breech end of it.
Right.
The little ball on the end called
Right.
the cascabel.
Right.
And you can see how she tapers on down. And there just isn't any doubt in my mind as to what that is. Now, he told me he did see these, but he thought they were like mastodon tusk. And I said, no. Elephants, and them things have only been laying there a couple of hundred years. The white part that goes into the elephant's jaw is still white. We had a wreck in the Bahamas about 10 years ago where some of these things came off, and that is exactly what they look like. But when the slave ships were picking up, they didn't just pick up slaves. They got ivory, gemstones. I theorize it was probably a slave ship on its way home. Slavery was outlawed by the British, I think, about 1808. And I think this was actually one that was sneaking over, hoping they wouldn't be seen by the Navy.
I haven't seen that deadeye.
I'll yell when I...
Let me see if I can see it.
Oh, all right, you do it. Well, go ahead. Just kidding, it's not on yet.
Oh, I haven't seen anything that looks like one yet.
You see all these little round things?
Yeah. Ballast?
I don't know. And there's a lot of the...
Whoa, there's the deadeye. Right there. See it?
There's just no question about it. No question about it. They sold the people, and they were on their way back to Europe, and probably had 2 or 3 large boxes of hard money on board, coins. This boat was probably caught in a storm and sank off the west coast of Florida. It still had ivory. Probably there's gemstones on board as well. But the main thing I believe will be significant about this is it'll be the first time in history you can hold a coin up and you could say, this coin was actually used to buy somebody. And we don't have any of those documented. This would be. The fish diver had his old Loran C numbers that he used 15 years ago, and it's been a nightmare trying to translate the old Loran C numbers into modern day GPS numbers.
Next step here is we go out in there and get Jim involved in this, and Whitaker, and let's take the mag and go out there and find this site.
Absolutely. Magging for sure, because I am positive that chain plate will make a nice wrap on the mag.
So a magnetometer, or a mag as we call it, is a treasure hunter's tool. It's used to detect ferrous metals underwater, such as cannon, chains, iron, chain plates, stuff like that, which could be on a wreck.
You tow the sensor head behind the boat and you're watching the electronics on board. And anytime your sensor head gets close to an anomaly or a distortion in the natural magnetic field, we get a little blip on our screen. And so then we want to go in and see what that is, because it could be caused by an anchor or a cannon, anything magnetic, any ferrous metal. And then hopefully if we find cannons, we'll find non-ferrous metal like gold and silver to go along with it.
Jim Whitaker has the latest in magnetometers as opposed to the ones Fizz and I have. Ours are 20 years old. He has the latest state-of-the-art, and he's very, very good at using them.
If the cannons are brass or bronze, the mag won't see them. But if they happen to be iron, that's a great target. And even these things that we keep saying, that shaped just like a cannonball, those will hit on the mag.
Right.
Jim's got a good one. In my opinion, he's the best in the business. And all we got to do is sweet talk him.
We need to get our butts out there and start looking at this thing before another hurricane comes along.
Yeah, well,
The original Boneyard Deadeye coordinates were outdated and way off the mark. Fizz said he could find some backers to get Jim Whitaker and his magnetometer out to the site. A sweep of the general area could help us zero in on where the ship and its treasure went down. Hey everybody, don't go away. When Treasure Divers continues, Fizz uncovers a priceless artifact that turns out to be one of the most striking finds of his career.
You mean stupid, not striking.
Okay, just kidding. Fizz dives the Deadeye Boneyard in search of a sunken slave ship loaded with cash, next on Treasure Divers.
Why me, Lord? I was doing just fine without him.
You're just lucky, I guess.
First thing I noticed was that Deadeye.
A Deadeye caught by accident on a fish diver's videotape could lead Fizz and me to a shipwreck filled with mystery, history, and possibly treasure. So basically that tape was taken about 12, 15 years ago.
Right.
And so we see a Deadeye in there, and we see a cannon, a rusted cannon.
Yeah, and those elephant tusks. And that's what tells me that ship was in Africa.
Right.
And off the Florida's west coast, that was the return route home for the old slave ship. So that's why I'm hoping that's what it is, because it'll have money on board instead of human cargo. That's a Deadeye, of course. It's made out of lignum vitae wood. And basically the lines run through it to help raise and lower the sails. You can see the holes are somewhat elongated, and that is from years of wear for the lines running through there.
When do you think this wreck went down, Carl?
Here's a good guess. Early to mid 1800s.
That money that may be on board, or those boxes that could contain money, very historical and significant value in them, isn't there?
Absolutely. They're going to be similar to these portraits that we got. These portrait coins came from another site, but they'll be similar to these. That's the old Spanish milled edge dollar. The whole world was using Spanish money. Also towards the end of the 1800s, when we got away from sail, and that made Deadeyes obsolete.
Yep, that's what we're looking for. Find one of these underwater. You can bet your butt we found ourselves a wreck. A week later, I was off to Florida's Gulf Coast, where Fizz was already working the area with Jim Whitaker and his magnetometer. Well, so here we are heading across Alligator Alley out in the middle of nowhere. Carl has spent all this money to do some magging for us on the Boneyard site. And you know damn well I got to get over there to make sure that he spent the money on the magging and not on beer and women like he's known to do. So here we go. Well, there's another gator right over there. Yeah, we've already done our research. Research is the first step in going out and try to find anything. The second step is to try to narrow it down by using a magnetometer. The third step is diving in to identify the hits. Jim Whitaker is one of the best in using a magnetometer, so we're really lucky to have him. Tomorrow we're going to go out with both Jim and Carl and actually work the magnetometer to see kind of what they found out there. Well, you know, Alligator Alley is some 144 miles across, and they don't have any rest areas. I'm sorry, they do have one, and we missed it. So oh man, here's a good spot right here. Well, I hope there's no gators around here. The exit's right up here. For me, the excitement's in the hunt and the search. You don't want to sit back and say, okay, well, this is it, but you're hopeful that this is the one. So you kind of keep your emotions in check, but underneath you're screaming that this is a hell of a lot of fun. We met up at Sarasota Harbor and loaded up Carl's notoriously slow vessel, the Time Ranger.
Yesterday was a pretty good day. We got hits out in what we call the boneyard site. So maybe we'll get some today, maybe not. That's just the way it is.
I want to drop the mag and see what we can get out there. This is all part of it. It's a long ride out there. It'll take us about 3 hours to get there. We first discovered why it was called the Time Ranger because of the amount of time it takes you to get someplace. It's just time stands still.
That's sarcasm, isn't it?
No, that's reality. How long did it take us to get out there?
4 hours.
I rest my case. We have Jim Whitaker, who's an expert in remote sensing. That we got his expertise in magnetometers to go out on the Time Ranger. What spot up sounder say?
80 feet, 81.
If you picture the Earth as a big ball and it has natural magnetic lines running north to south. And what happens is when a ship sinks with iron cannons, cannonballs, iron fittings, it distorts that area of natural magnetism, and basically your magnetometer senses a distortion. So then you just need to go in and see what it is. This is the exciting part.
For hours and hours.
We're looking for the chain plate from the Deadeye. We're looking for any kind of iron that may have come off the ship. We're looking for the anchor, the chain, cannons, whatever we can find to give a magnetic signature. And we did find a scatter trail. All right, where's the beer?
We're running.
You bringing a beer?
How long did these masks go?
Found anything yet?
Yeah. I'm not giving up, and since now we've hooked up with Jim Whitaker, and to tell you the honest truth, we were out there on not too good of a day, and we weren't holding our lines real straight, but we were excited to get what hits we got. This is all one hit. We started smelling it at this point, and then you see how it arches up a bit. That means the hit got stronger, and then on this line we're dropping off of it from one side to the other. And it wasn't a very strong hit, but it lasted a pretty good duration. So sometimes you translate that as meaning it's old iron that's been in the salt water a longer period of time than something modern.
All right, you can go to neutral now. Okay, mag's on board.
The big hit that we got yesterday was in that same area.
Well, now all that's left is going diving. My heart told me to stay and dive the mag hits with Fizz. But calm seas during hurricane season meant one thing: back to my day job, guiding divers in the scuba diving capital of the world. Okay, ladies, we're here. Let's go do some diving. I've been diving for 35 years now, and one of the main things I love about scuba diving is you always see something different, something new, something exciting every time I've gone down. So there's always the thrill about what am I going to see next. The entire Florida Keys is a national marine sanctuary. That's really helped the Keys. The amount of fish that's here is just tremendous. I've dove all over the Caribbean and I've never seen as many fish as I see here in the Florida Keys.
Republic Base, Republic Base, Republic Base. Our 7 underway, making way, 20 minutes.
Another boring day at the office. You know, the dive business is the next best thing to treasure diving. They've both been in my blood since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. I was always interested in treasure hunting, finding lost artifacts from the time I was a kid, finding stuff underwater. Well, I grew up in the Florida Panhandle, and I looked for old bottles around that area. I had always been interested in collecting, all the way from collecting old bottles to collecting silver coins. That was a real treat, a delight to find something that was 3 to 4 times older than I was back in the 20s and 30s. I mean, that was a long time ago for a 12-year-old. So it was an exciting adventure for me. Along with being a master captain from the United States Coast Guard, I'm also a master scuba diver trainer. When we bought the dive shop, Conch Republic Divers, I went on to increase my certifications, went through advanced open water, went to rescue, then dive master, and on to instructor, which I am now. Treasure diving now brings another aspect to what I've already done before. Now we're down looking for artifacts. Gold, possibly, silver, possibly, but something that has been lost for hundreds of years. Whenever I'm treasure diving, we're going out on an adventure, and this adventure could turn into something pretty productive. It makes me feel fantastic. Anyway, I got the bug a long time ago, and meeting Carl was just a dream come true. Now I could actually learn from somebody who'd been doing it since Godzilla was a lizard.
Shut up. No.
Shut up. You know, we've talked a lot about the Boneyard, Fizz and I, and the possibilities of what could be down there, and now getting the chance to actually go out there and find it. I am just on pins and needles wanting to get out there and get down to that 60 foot and see what's down there for myself. We have a meeting later on with Jim Whitaker and with Carl Fismer. And we have some pretty unique ideas that we're going to go over about how to actually find this site. It's just a matter of, can we pull it off in between the weather? But I'm hoping like heck I'm going to have beginner's luck and find that stuff right off the bat. Next, Fizz dives the Boneyard, and I miss out on a really big clue when Treasure Divers returns. You came to dive. Get off my boat. With a hurricane still hanging out in the Gulf, my dive business depended on those last days of clear skies. Okay, you ready to go? So it was up to Fizz to get a close-up look at those mag hits before the storm made landfall. Were we zeroing in on a location of that deadeye? And maybe a slave ship that went down over 200 years ago.
Hey guys, what's happening this morning?
Oh, not too much. Boat's running fine. Everything's filled, ready to go.
We're gonna find that wreck we've been looking for, I hope.
Let's go.
All right, we got a good day for it too.
Today the day?
Today's the day. There were a lot of English slave captains, but also Spanish and I assume French as well. Dutch, certainly. So they would sail down the west coast of Africa with trade goods that the slavers could trade to the African chiefs in exchange for people. They would also trade for ivory and gemstones and anything they could make money on after they got back home. They would head west, top part of South America or somewhere in Central America, turn to the north and head towards New Orleans or Mobile, Alabama, or one of the big slave markets, which this ship did. I'd say in the 25, 30 times we've been out here, that's about as nice as it gets.
Well, the wind's finally died down. That's what's been killing us.
That's a good thing.
Get that front through here, we'll be all right.
They'd sell the slaves, no credit, all hard money, hard money. And then on their way back to Europe, they would go right past the west coast of Florida.
All right, guy. You got a full battery.
Oh, you got the metal detector?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Ready to go. All right.
Okay, boys. Good luck to us all.
All right. Go get the gold.
Today, finally, we had a good day. Flat water, about 10 feet of visibility, which is better than average out there. We picked up a rib bone. And this is from a dugong, which is a cousin to a manatee. There's no dugongs around Florida anymore, but they were here 10 million years ago. I've seen hundreds of them, so that tells me we are in the boneyard site that we had been looking for. That is a tooth from a woolly mammoth. 10 million years ago, he was living right out here, probably anywhere from 80 to 100 miles off the coast of present-day Florida. But the prize, the thing that got me all pumped up today, was this, a piece of pewter. Now, I know what you're thinking. It looks like just a piece of trash somebody threw away, but it isn't. As you can see, it has some kind of shape to it, like possibly part of a bowl or maybe a deep dish platter of some kind. It's old. I know this because I picked a lot of these up intact. The downside is something this lightweight in the current and in the storms will roll around on the ocean bottom. But hopefully it didn't roll too far. We know the wreck is in the boneyard, and this is the best piece we've got so far. First piece. Next time we go back, we'll be metal detecting and spread out further than we were today, cover more ground, and with a little bit of luck, we'll pinpoint the site. Hey, Rich.
On his way back to home base, Fizz stopped off to see restoration expert Rich Loud.
Yo, Rich.
It was the perfect place to
Rich.
share treasure tales and find out
What are
what
you doing
might
in
be
there?
on that sunken ship.
How are you, Carl?
Just fine, man. Good to see you. Rich Loud does the finest conservation work in the business today.
Wonderful. Come on in.
Okay. By profession, he's a chemical engineer. What year you figure these are?
Early 1700s.
But by interest, he's self-taught in how to preserve artifacts that have been in salt water for hundreds of years.
Now, this is a hand grenade, hollow, and it has gunpowder in it.
If I've got a really nice piece I want preserved, I'll take it to Rich Loud.
Just live, that'd hurt throwing at somebody.
Also, he's good to confer with on what you might find on certain periods in shipwrecks. 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, Spanish, French, English, Dutch, slave ships, things like that.
This is a set of leg irons that was found buried under a foot of sand, and that's covered with a conglomerate. You can hardly tell what they are. When they carefully take apart this conglomerate, this covering on it,
they look like these.
That's the one right there.
Probably hundreds, if not thousands, of manacles on a slave ship. Now, you have manacles on just about every ship, but you would have an overwhelming abundance of them on a slave vessel.
They weren't on anybody. They were in stored position. So they were returning back to Spain, this ship.
Just in case the captain said, throw him in irons.
Yeah,
this
that's
was
what they
the irons
did.
they threw him in.
Hard to believe, but that's how they turn out.
Rich had restored some of the flintlock pistols that I've recovered and done a heck of a job. I see you got those as good as they can be.
Yeah, the metal in the pistols was really high quality. Both of them were made in Spain. This one here has a barrel that's almost entirely intact. The locking mechanism is intact. Nice gold ornamentation around here. On the back, the carving is beautiful.
Is it? Well, that belonged to somebody important. The flintlock pistols, they also came from the 1733 fleet in Florida Keys. You're not going to find a big hoard around any ballast. If you're lucky, you may pick up a few coins, singles here and there. But there are no more big glory holes around the ballast. You want a glory hole, you better find where that thing came over the reef and where it skittered up to where it finally came to rest. That's your chance for the glory holes. On the flintlock pistols, we recovered, I'd say, 25 of them. The water depth was about 22 feet. I mean, you can dive in that depth all day long, and we did. Because once we get into a hot area, I don't care. I'm in there when the sun first comes up, and I'm being drug out at sundown. As long as we can see and there's light, we're digging. My feeling is they had them all centrally located on the ship, and is where they're handy if they need them. Hey, we're being attacked, guys, and everybody runs over and gets their pistols or their muskets. I don't think they carried them around on the boat for everyday kind of sailing duty, especially at sea, because you could always see somebody if they're coming at you. You'll have plenty of time. Okay, you ready for the good stuff?
Okay.
Say please.
Okay,
please, please. Here it is. The moment you've been waiting for. The most important piece I took this time was a reliquary. It was a reliquary that was recovered from a Spanish galleon. Most of them are oval-shaped, 3.5, 4 inches, and they contain something that's been handed down from a saint or a martyr from like 2,000 years ago, from like Roman times. The piece de resistance. 2 hand-carved rosewood crosses, and some of the 22-karat gold inlay is still on them. Amazing. Look,
that's beautiful.
Yeah, look at those beads. Obviously, at one time there were 2 rosaries in here, but if you'll notice it where the cross crosses, there's 2 little slivers of wood also forming a cross, and those are from the cross of a saint or a martyr. Like when St. Peter was crucified, he said, I don't deserve to die like Jesus. I want to be crucified upside down. And they did. But after he was dead, they cut his cross up and distributed it to the faithful. I'm not saying what I got's from St. Peter's cross, although it may be. and I was actually following the trail of one of the galleons. You know, you go like move 100 feet, jump in, metal detect. If you find something, look closely. If not, move again. And so on one of those jaunts, I metal detected the reliquary. It was buried about 14, 16 inches, but a nice target for the metal detectors. I guess that the priest or cardinal or bishop or whoever the holy person was that owned this before was trying to swim to shore and dropped it in a clean area because he didn't drop anything else. And I don't know if he made it or not. I'd have to say the reliquary is my overall favorite, and believe me, I found some nice stuff. Truthfully, I don't know what it's worth. I've loaned it to 3 different museums for displays so far, and I show it off. You know, I like people to look at it, including some priests, and they thought, wow, this was great. And I said, now isn't this better to have here well preserved by Rich Loud than to have you come down and see it than to have it rot away into oblivion out in the ocean somewhere. I'm sure I could put it up for sale. Maybe, who knows, the Pope might even want to buy it, but I'd be more inclined, if the Pope asked me for it, I'd probably give it to him.
Well, you know, maybe there wasn't a reliquary in the boneyard, but Carl did come up with that pewter, and we knew there was a cannon, a deadeye, and an elephant tusk down there too. All we had to do, just figure out how to get to them. On the trail of a prehistoric underwater boneyard, the final resting place of a ship which once carried human cargo. While diving some of our mag hits, Fizz found 10 million-year-old bones in a piece of pewter. We could be getting closer to that long-lost slave ship and the mysteries it held. Back at the dive shop, I heard the good news about Fizz's discovery. A little piece of pewter could be the big clue we've been searching for. I feel like we're close, real close to finding this boneyard site and the wreck that's on it. It's a little frustrating, though, that we ran out of investor dollars to do this, and it's sort of like just right on the other side of the curtain. We dove the site and saw how murky and stuff it is down there. It's sort of like, you know, seeing the outline of the cannon just on the distance, just a little bit, and if you just swim another 10 feet, you could do it.
Okay, well,
We met with Jim Whitaker to review his magnetometer readings and zero in on the coordinates for the boneyard. We know that Loran Sea uses towers. Is there any way we can figure out which towers that was being used? The fish divers' numbers were taken from an old navigational system that used signals from radio towers.
Right.
Let's say you guys tweak the math, and you might even come up with numbers halfway in between.
The big question was,
Yeah.
would translating these numbers to modern-day GPS get us close enough to the target?
My drawing's horrendous,
Yes, it is.
but we're going to try it anyway here. So to triangulate, the numbers that we had to go on were Loran numbers. Loran uses 3 towers from various areas that you triangulate, and that's where X marks the spot. That would kind of give us the a triangle, so to speak, of where the hit was.
So the further away from the towers you get, the less accuracy you have.
All right, so we're kind of looking at anywhere from, I guess, a quarter of a mile all the way up to a half a mile off that we could be.
Yeah, the best you can get if you're right close into a tower is 50 foot of accuracy, but you're never there.
Well, if I've talked to 6 people, I got 6 different answers and 6 different sets of numbers. And Dennis and I have been running to every one of those every time. I've probably dove out there 25 or 30 times, and we may even have been on the right numbers. It's just one tank of air. I'm lucky to get 35 minutes on the bottom, 65 to 70 feet. And then when you do get a hit on the metal detector, you breathe a lot faster, you burn your air up, you're exerting yourself, and you come up with a treat like a beer can.
I took those original Loran C numbers, which now transposed everything into GPS. It's kind of amazing that now we're seeing your mag hits only a half a mile due east of the original numbers.
Okay, it's quite interesting that they come up just parallel. It means that it's probably the same target.
Yeah. Even being a half a mile away?
Yeah. It's too coincidental. Things like that don't happen.
Just kind of a coincidence. And also, of course, where the magnetometer did all of the surveying is where Fizz found that piece of pewter. Where was that at, Fizz?
Well, that was in this group of hits right here. We didn't have a lot of faith in the big bang that we got, one big hit by itself, so I decided
That was way up here.
Yeah.
Right there.
And I said, well, let's start down here, and I'll just go in here and do some metal detecting. We got that piece of pewter that I was so proud of, and I'm just thinking that pewter, it's so small and lightweight, it can roll for miles whenever the current's running. For miles. It's not like a cannon gonna drop in one place and stay there.
So, Jim, based on what we got here, what do you think the next approach is?
Well, we could do all the math on the numbers and check everything over.
Right.
But I think the ultimate thing is to take the mag back out there and spot check this area, real close quarters, and see if we can come up with,
To grid this whole area here?
well, that's a very small area,
Yeah.
but
About a half
Yes.
a mile across.
It's frustrating. Getting electronic surveys done is extremely expensive. That's the main reason that we have backers, because myself and the people I work with, we're like regular people. We've got house payments, we got car payments, we got kids in school. We're just making enough salary-wise to pay our bills and live. And then whenever we do find the wreck, then everybody's going to get a nice hunk of it. Unfortunately, what's happened with us is the backers have pulled the plug on the money. I've got enough to maybe for 2 more tanks of gasoline in the Hydrosport.
The recommendation of actually going back out and doing another mag study was a great recommendation. But the problem is it takes money to do that, and we didn't have the money to do it. So we had to figure out another way to get the most out of the money that we had.
Got it. Mark Fleckenstein is one of my supporters in this, and he builds a lot of useful things. And one thing that he made was this garbage can. Plastic garbage can's about 4 feet high with a round top and the little swinging door on them. Mark took one of those and he mounted 2 very expensive television cameras into the round dome, so it looks like it's got 2 eyes, a garbage can with 2 eyes. And then behind that he mounted a Pulse 10 towable metal detector, and we pull that behind the boat. So if we get into a sandy area where something's buried and the TV cameras don't pick it up, well, the Pulse 10 is going to hit it, and it'll make a loud enough noise so that it'll blow your eardrums out. It's great. I mean, I've pulled it before, and the picture's wonderful.
The camera was the best way to do it. The garbage cam, as we call it, lovingly call it, is the best way to do that because we can keep that garbage cam down for infinite amount of time. It takes no air. I've got a couple of people still beating the bushes to raise some more money, but there's no point in not working. So what it cost us is a couple of tanks of gas
and a couple of blank VCRs. But the backers have told me, we bring in that Deadeye and they'll load up our bank account to complete the job.
Let's go do it.
Not a bad idea.
Without the money for another mag study, our only choice was to drag an underwater camera and hope for the best. Then we found out even that would have to wait for Ernesto.
Florida is either under a tropical storm watch or warning.
The hurricane was upon us, and the Deadeye Boneyard would have to wait.
All the ships back there were square riggers. It was hot, humid, sweaty, dirty, disgusting. Very, very tough work.
A lot like your boat. I don't know this guy. But enough about me. We've got a couple seconds left. Tell us your life story.
The end.